Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Cone Racing League Season number 7. You're back here once again on a Monday night for Tier number 4, as we're about to get underway for round 13 of 15 here in Imola. I am your host, CRL Freefall. I think everything should be live and dandy, although I haven't had a notification to say so. Fingers crossed that is all working well. I don't have audio as well. There we go. We're slowly getting there, folks. But once again, we are back for tier number 4. And my lovely co-host, Liam Carragh, has joined just in time. Need to share his lovely voice, but he is just joined in time. We're back in round 13 of 15, like I've said, and the championship is really heating up here in Tier 4. NKP, of course, taking top spot last week out in Abu Dhabi ahead of SUFC 69 and Kriegel 82. So in the championship perspective, NKP 251 points. He is 54 points clear of the man in your screen right now, Ferguson 286. There is a total, including this race tonight, of 96 points available. 66 points available. Oh, I haven't included fastest lap in that actually, so there's 99 points available, sorry, and 69 points available after tonight. With the gap currently at 54, that means if MKP can outscore Ferguson by 16 points, then it is on the cards for the title to be signed, sealed, delivered tonight, Liam.
Yeah, hello. I mean, I have my voice shared now. But yeah, Ferguson, kind of a unlikely situation that he might outscore MKP here tonight. However, anything is on the cards. There could be a double DNF for a DNF for MKP, sorry. So anything could happen.
Anything. Indeed, another man in that title fight as well is Kriegel 82. He was on a bit of a hot streak, including last week P3. Last time Tier 4 raced here in Imola, it was him that took the top spot, so another one to look out for tonight. We're on board then with Ferguson 286 as he rounds turn 12 and 13. A very tricky corner. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. I know it's out there. I know it's legendary, and I'm sure you'll have it in your back pocket there, Liam.
No, it's also slipped my mind now that you say it.
Aqua Rally, that's it. We got there.
No, but that's going uphill. That's the blue section. It's a different name for that chicane.
It's crossing the line then, rounding, of course, 19 corners here. That little bend kink to the right is 19. A 17-1 for Kriegel, an 18-1 for Ferguson, an 18-5 for Marshall. Of course, the first run's slowly starting to come in. Let's get on board. We'll go
Alpine
with
of Maverick.
Rounding this final corner. DRS wide open, up to the line. A 19.594 for his run. Mark Wilson up there, 17.612. MKP, a 17.545. Leon 1, rounding the penultimate corner. Well, technically now the penultimate corner, of course, turns 18. The little kink to the right, turn 19 here, getting a nice slip effect off the car in front, and he goes top. As it stands, a 16.757.
Yeah, and Leon coming down from Tier 3 to Tier 4, still yet to win a race in Tier 4. So will be very interesting. Him on MUFC Harvey having to come down earlier down in the season.
MUFC Harvey, unfortunately not able to race on more for this season, so won't see much more of him. But we do have some new faces and a few returning. Wab Stappen in the Mercedes making his debut. Scooter Claim and Super Wario back once again after decent showings last week in their debuts. And I believe that is us on the reserve front. Spider Rob getting his first ever podium in CRL at this track the last season out, and unfortunately serving a race ban due to accumulation of pain points, isn't on the grid tonight. So it is the lone Ferrari, of course, the constructor, provisionally leading the championship standings. We don't currently have up-to-date standings for you from Abu Dhabi, but the main battle, I believe, is AlphaTauri and Ferrari at the top. So as you can expect, the likes of AFL and Spyro have been two very consistent drivers up against the man that is MKP at the top of the standings for that battle. On board then with Wab Stappen. I've seen him race a couple of times before in my league racing days. He'll be a good addition to this tier, definitely. What is his first lap time going to be? A 19.530. Nice little banker. Get yourself on the board and go for some faster runs later on.
Yeah, of course. I mean, these are just the first laps coming in. We're still yet to see the true pace of these drivers to be shown, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. There's plenty of time to game does to get a little bit more confidence maybe, and of course the track rubbers and track evolution is sometimes the key to qualifying. 16.757 then the top time from the Alfa Romeo of Leon at the moment. Pole time in Tier 3, I do know this, was a 16.1, so only 6 tenths off on his initial lap. He's definitely got pace to get near that, and I think a few other drivers will as well.
And just to think that last generation's cars were one of the fastest generations we have seen in a very long time in F1 as well. So, yeah, very, very surprising to see that the gap is only, what, 6 tenths?
6 tenths between the two tiers, and they've still got 10 minutes to go. Just shows that really, there isn't a huge gulf in these guys to the Tier 3 guys. Well, been the same from Tier 3 to Tier 2 and Tier 2 to Tier 1. Yes, maybe the top of Tier 1 to the bottom of Tier 2 is a big gap, and vice versa with Tier 3 to Tier 4. But in the mids, the top and the bottom of each other tier, it's pretty close. Mark Wilson out doing another lap, it seems. Finished a secondary run on those tyres. Could not improve.
Oh, there's rain.
Softs for him. And it is rain. That's maybe why then, trying to get as many laps in as early as he can, and this could be qualifying done and dusted nice and early, Liam.
Yeah, it could be. Still yet to set a lap time, Super Wario and Ghost Angel 1, so very surprising that they haven't set a lap yet. Curly already showing that maybe it is time to retire, and maybe it is too late to go out.
Yeah, Ghost Angel 1, I did notice earlier on, had no front wing at one point, so coming into contact with the walls around here, which isn't too uncommon. So that's maybe scuppered his chances for qualifying. We'll keep on board with MKP. He's just starting a flying lap. There may be, just maybe, a slither of time here to get one last lap in, but every second, Liam, this track's going to be getting greasier and just slippier, and the grip and rubbers just disappear. And he's only 700ths off his best time through Sector 1, which, to be fair, is fairly respectable given the worsening conditions, but he'll be finding it tough to find too much, especially the
Hold
7
on,
or so
I'll just be right back. Hold on.
Yeah, no worries, mate. The 7 or so attempts, and particularly now, DRS is now disabled. So it's going to be really tricky for this AlphaTauri, or anybody for that matter, to find any time whatsoever over the chicane of 13 and 14, and now the run down the hill to the speed trap, of course. 14 and 15, that chicane, not 13 and 14. However, turn 16 and 17 coming up, the left-hander of 17. Another little kink there beforehand, somehow counting for a corner. Another left-hander of 18, a really tricky traction zone, and MKP deciding it's not really worth the effort to do another in-lap. 8.5 minutes or there and thereabouts on the clock by my calculations, and it's pretty much curtains for qualifying at this stage. The rain slowly coming down, of course. I don't think we've seen much in the way of wet weather for this division in recent weeks, so it has been a little bit of calm before a storm, and looking at that track, it's what a storm it may be. Of course, the race could be completely dry, it could be absolutely torrential. We will find out very, very shortly. Big shout out to everybody watching at the moment. Daniel Boers, the ever-present supporter of Mark Wilson. Mark, again, a driver that's had a solid showing this season once again in Cohen. just a little bit of unluckiness, somehow finds himself in P9 in the standings despite being on potential for multiple podiums. And the legend that is the Tier 2 driver, Cole Paradox, lovely to see you down there, mate. Big shout out to him on the title charge potentially for Tier 2. All quiet on track then. The only car out is Ghost Angel 1 in the Haas, and I hate to tell you, those soft red stripe tyres are not going to be having a good time out there, of course. He can try and get a lap in, and best Super Wario P16 is on the cards for him here. It's going to be very tricky to get P15, especially on the softs, let alone on the intermediates. We're already past that P15 qualifying time, and you can see how much he's struggling there out with this weather. We all good, Liam?
Yep. Just ordered some food. I have my food. I'm a happy man. So, yeah, no complaints from my end.
Oh,
anyways, 7 laps to go in this qualifying session, fully raining. All the times are set on the soft tyres, so there won't be any improvements. These drivers are free to just retire in the pits, as there is no racing available. Still yet to set a lap would be Ghost Angel 1. Obviously, we've just seen him spin, so not really the best showing from him so far. There's Super Wario, I think, who's just come out the pits, so I believe that's him, isn't it?
I think so. It's either him or Mark Wilson. It's Mark Wilson out on the intermediates. It's going to be hard. I mean, it's not going to be hard. It's going to be impossible to improve in that time with intermediates. However, this may be an indication. Is it going to be a wet race, and this is a chance to get some laps in?
Yeah, it could be. It could be exactly. 5 minutes on the dot. There's approximately 4 and a bit laps that they can do to test out the wet weather, to get their feet a little bit wet.
Dip the toes in the water, see how it feels, see how the car handles. It's well and truly on its way to becoming wet. Scooter Claim is sitting in the garage on those blue compound wet tyres. I don't quite think it's there yet, but if the rain keeps up like this, it definitely won't be far off in the race. Imola already a very, very tricky circuit at the best of times, of course. The Imola Romagna, I believe I've said that right, Romagna Grand Prix, as it's known in recent years. For me and maybe some of you, that's it. I see. I needed that little Irish culturism to say it properly. But recently known as that to some of the older, I think you'll be among this as well. To me, it's the San Marino Grand Prix, of course, 1981 to 2006.
It will always be the San Marino Grand Prix to me. Home of many iconic races. If you remember, the last 2 corners were actually just where Mark Wilson just passed. It was just a tight left-right chicane, similar to that of the third sector.
That was right. Yeah, the old layout. You had the chicane. It was straight on into the pits, and then a little chicane just where the last sort of kink is. I must say, for drivability in the game, I'm sort of glad that sector's gone. You can see the difference there in the lap times, though. Mark Wilson on the intermediates, 3 seconds down on his dry time just in the first sector alone, really shows the pace difference that these tyres have and the weather conditions, of course, have. It has been an iconic race, I think, in Cone as well. There's been a few brilliant races. There's been a few disastrous races for certain drivers. It's always been a strong track of mine, I must admit. And it seems to be one of those tracks that people either absolutely love or absolutely hate. It's just some really interesting traction zones, and of course that first flowing full sector. And rain for the full race, from what Murphy's telling me.
Ooh. It'll be a grueling
spicy.
one. It'll be a grueling one. It's one of endurance. As we both know, the rain in this game is quite tricky to drive on. And thinking back now, there's iconic, races in real life. We had pretty much the changing of the guard in 2005 between Michael Schumacher, or was it 2004? Between Michael Schumacher and Fernando Alonso.
It was 2005. Alonso won his first championship, but he was. I think it was 2004. That race where he started to sort of.
Yeah, because
I think it was 2004.
that event known onwards was known as the changing of the guard. Theoretically, now speaking. But that was when Fernando showed his true pace amongst a legend like Michael Schumacher himself. And now we're kind of seeing that between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton.
Was there not also the infamous little incident? Was it not around here with was it Montoya and Schumacher? Oh nope, I wasn't there.
Yes, it was.
It was round here, wasn't it? Yeah, I'm right in saying
The famous words. Is he blind? Is he stupid?
I think that was the exit of turn 7. Oh, here we go. We've got some. Oh, we'll test some Italian here, shall we? So we're on board then with I'm Marshall. He's coming up to turn 7, also known as Tosa. I think that's right.
That's
TOS. So you knew, and you've been holding back. It's terrible, Liam. You should be using this nice.
No, so when I critique you, it gives me a sense of Iron Marshall hitting the wall coming out of this left-hander and binning it, ending his session, and it won't affect anything, but that will surely knock down his confidence.
Definitely, if it's a full wet or even intermediate race, that's bound to hurt your confidence. Going for a pirouetta around turn number 9 of Piratella. On board with his teammate then, he comes through 11, 12, 13, Acqua Minerale, up the hill then into Variante Alta.
Variante Alta, yeah.
Oh, beautiful. God, it's almost as if Italian's my second language.
Yep. I mean, I did a lot of music in my day, and there's a lot of Italian terms used, and I've always strived to always get the pronunciation right. If anything, the pronunciation was my forte, and it still is today.
And you're still knocking it pretty well. I've just realised most of the actual corners here are called varianti, so I'm just going to refer to the second bit. Of course, turns 2, 3 and 4, I think they're pretty well known as Tamburello. I think I've said that right. 5 and 6, of course, Villeneuve. That's just what Ghost Danger 1's coming up. He has got a time on the board, so he has jumped Super Wario, choosing not to go a run out. Let's give some love to Super Clem. He's braved it out on the wet weather tyre, as session is now finished. Checkered flag out. Complete your laps, boys. Qualifying is done and dusted. Leon then going to take top spot, 4 attempts clear of Craigo, who's 4 attempts clear of MKP. 300 separate himself and Mark Wilson, with then 4 attempts back to AFL. But bear in mind, that was just effectively a single lap shootout with the weather coming in. So could be a little bit of a mixed up grid here, a little bit of not too big of a jumble. You've still got the guys like Craigo MKP up near the top, but with wet weather conditions coming as well, this could be a spicy Grand Prix, Liam.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, wet weather conditions playing out the way it is, that long run into turn 1 definitely will be one to watch. Obviously, not all races are decided from turn 1. However, we'll see most of the race decided from turn 1, lap 1, if the weather prevails.
We've seen in recent memory some interesting events at turn 1 as AFL almost makes contact with an Alfa Romeo there coming in to Ravazza. Of course, the Hamilton Verstappen incident and then the Russell Bottas incident leading into turn 1. It's definitely an exciting and tense bit of the track, particularly on lap 1 as Ghost Danger 1 crawls into the pits with Scooter Clem to finish off this qualifying session. The third last of the season as well for these drivers, of course. 2 races to go after this. Hungary next week, and then the sprint race, which isn't really even a full qualifying. It's a one-shot quality sprint race and feature race around about Bahrain for round 15. So, for effectively the second last time, qualifying is over for our Tier 4 drivers. Leon takes the pole ahead of Craigo and MKP. And we have a I think it's 33, 34 laps of the San Marino Grand Prix to come.
Well-deserved pole position, especially for what was essentially a banker. But yeah, a lot of things still to be seen, shall we say?
A lot left to be desired. A lot of cards close to the chest. Could interest me. Well, setups could be a massive impact on this race given the weather and maybe changeability of it. We know that of course it's on approximate forecast, so it might tell you it's full wet for the race. It might lighten, it might get heavier, who knows. We will find out in due course. Leon though only 6 tenths off the tier 3 pole time, and if this is a wet race, he might be one of those caught out with a little bit of lacking downforce. Of course, a lot of traction zones, a lot of tight, twisty corners here, but all will come unravelled very, very, very soon. Drivers loading in. We'll have a quick formation lap and get underway for round 13. Given that,
sorry.
Go ahead, Liam.
Imola, lots of infamous corners, lots of corners to lose your car, as we've seen with Iron Marshall, or potentially some really good racing coming our way. Still yet to see.
It is one of the tracks. Of course, margins are always fine in Formula One. Around this track, they're just that little bit finer between the cars on your other side, between the curbs that could send you off, and just the traction zones in general. Safety cars are a thing around here more often than not. Looking at the skies, though, it looks fairly clear, but I wonder if the rain is back on its way. Doesn't look to be rain at the moment, but it's looking very dark, and that track's looking very greasy. So maybe a quick sprint on the softs, on the mediums potentially, get onto the intermediates and see how bad the weather comes. Time will tell. That seems to be the inside info. Full rating for the race apparently after 5/10 minutes. So there's been a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to what the inside information actually is, and that's just a bit to that approximation. People reading into it slightly differently, maybe.
I mean, we'll take it as it comes. Scott, shall we?
I think that's all we can do.
As drivers are taking their sweet time now, getting their setups ready, getting the finer details carved out, I guess. I think we'll see a lot of moves coming into turn 1. I think we'll see risky moves as you know, some of these drivers are fighting for position in the championship. These guys will be wanting to fight for track position as much as possible.
Absolutely. As well, it's a relatively quite a decently long run down into turn 1 as well. If you get a slightly better lift off the grid box, or maybe a slightly worse lift off the grid box, you could really see some 2-3 wide action into turn 1. I think in races previously here in CRL we've seen it 4 wide down into turn 1, which it doesn't always work out. Sometimes it does. There's a little bit of give and take, but these guys here are all competitive. They're all here to win. They're all here to race, and it'll be sort of no love lost at some points. Others. So we'll find out anyway. Drivers on the grid then, just about to start their formation lap. Tyre condition then, a mix of mediums and hards. So maybe this rain not quite coming as soon as some expected. Craigo, MKP, Mark Wilson and Curley all on the white compound hard tyre. The rest of the grid opting for the yellow medium compound tyre. 32 laps here around about Imola. So a decently lengthed Grand Prix, of course. Tyre wear is, it's not too bad around here. Half length on the mediums and hards, definitely doable. So the one stop, the optimum strategy, of course, with that long pit lane as well. But a safety car and, of course, the new tyre selection mechanics could throw a spanner in that works. A little twist in the tail of this Grand Prix. 17 cars on the grid tonight. We'll let them slowly make their way around the formation lap before lights out. But I'm going to put you on the spot, Liam. Who are you predicting to take the checkered flag here? Who's your money on at the start? A bold guess.
I like to vote an underdog. I want to put Craigo up there. I mean, Craigo's had some brilliant pace over the past few days, or a few weeks, and I just think he may be able to snatch Leon's win away. Should everything align for him. However, anything is possible, and there's no real guaranteed, I guess, winners.
I'm gonna go for a bigger, maybe outside underdog. I'm torn between two, between Wiban and Marshall. Wiban P4 last week, Marshall P5. Of course, Marshall getting a podium in Australia. Very good at sort of putting the car in the right place at the right time when it comes to the sort of the business end of the Grand Prix. So I'm going to go for a right outsider, but we'll find out in 32 laps time. All we know is it's going to be one of these 17 names on the left side of your screen. Just which one it will be is down to themselves. 32 laps, potential for rain, potential for safety cars, potential for virtual safety cars. And the only thing that's certain is there's going to be plenty of action. Drivers now coming up to the grid, slotting into those grid boxes as we get ready for lights out for round number 13 of this season 7 in CRL Tier 4.
And it will always. My words has completely left me. It will be about positioning with the grid boxes here tonight. As you know, ladies and gentlemen, Imola is starting on a kind of slanted straight. As you can see there, Leon tilted his car just a bit to make it face straight. So yeah.
Really crucial point that, of course, getting the car angled to the right means your straighter can get the power down earlier, but it's 5 red lights here on San Marino, Imola, and we are lights out and away we go. Craigo getting a decent start by the looks of things and jump Leon, and this is huge contact. Further back, Leon out, Ferguson out. VSC deployed before we get to turn 1. Mark Wilson, Curley all caught up in that. That was a huge collision.
Oh my god, and 2 of the Alfa Romeos already out of this session. And by the looks of things, if MKP finishes this race, he will be crowned champion. But MKP, he does have wing damage, so he'll need to climb up his way up in the field.
MKP needing to score 16 points tonight to claim the championship. 30 for P1, 24 for P2, 20 for P3 and 17 for P4. Only 14 available for P5. Of course, a bonus fastest lap point can be thrown in there, but P4 and above should secure the championship for MKP. However, like you say, wing damage on the front of that Alpha Tauri, meaning an early pit stop for him to replace that front right end plate. I'm not quite sure what happened there. Craigo got a good launch on Leon. It looked as if Leon and Ferguson maybe coming together at some point. Mark Wilson got caught up in that, so just a huge collision at the front. Safety car deployed from the initial virtual safety car. It'll give the guys that need a chance to pit to get a free pit stop in there, but the strategy is completely out the window for them.
And now MKP hitting the pits. And it'll be interesting if he has chosen a balanced or softer set of allocation. Bear in mind, if you go for a balanced allocation of tyres, you'll get 2 mediums instead of the traditional 1, as we had all game cycle.
Might be the saving grace from the mediums. Just about can stretch out to the 15-16 lap mark. Of course, they'll need to do a little bit less now with this safety car. It's going to be at least lap 3 before we get back to green flag racing. So definitely do a lot of medium, but that's only if you've got the 2 sets available. Of course, he's only done one, not even a lap on the hard, so there's the option to do the mediums and go back to the hard, so it's not completely out the window. And our free pitters are Curley, Maverick and Mark Wilson. And MKP as well, of course. Mark Wilson getting caught up in that front group. There must have been a little chain reaction slightly further down the grid then, with Curley and Maverick getting caught up in that. But we said there could be some interest in racing and maybe a little bit of chaos into turn 1, and it did not disappoint us.
And as is typical with Imola, very small entrance, very small gaps that could be given. going into turn 1. So not entirely a surprise. And especially off the starts, I mean, you have that little turn, I guess, that you have to account for going into turn 1. And that might have just caught some drivers out.
It's almost, I mean, you can sort of see it on the right hand of your screen there, ladies and gentlemen. There is that sort of right hand bend off the initial launch from the grid, and then it does, like you say, twist back to the left. So there is the potential for cars that maybe think they're given more room than they are, just with not shifting it back across to the left or the right or vice versa. And it does make this sort of tightening effect, like you say, the cars coming tight together before what is a really, really tricky chicane for turns 1, 2 and 3. The grid then nearly all reformed. It's going to be lap 3 still under safety car here in Imola. Lap 4 probably green flag racing. Craigo, AFL, Wuban, Murphy out in front. Atom up there as well. I think he's gained the most positions by a long shot. No, it's actually Murphy. Murphy up 8, Atomic, or Mighty Atom up 6, Wabstappen on his debut up 7, Super Wario up 8, and Ghost Angel 1 up 6. The biggest losers though, Mark Wilson, once again his unlucky streak continuing on into this race after a solid qualifying. He's always up and around that podium spots, and it just never seems to link together for the full race distance. And trust me when I say I know exactly how that feels.
Oh, I know how that feels, especially in this league. Well, too many mistakes from my end. However, this is the Tier 4 stream, not the Tier 1 sub session. So, we'll be underway, coming out of just entering Varianta Alta. So, these cars will be readying their tyres, warming them up so that they get the best launch possible coming out of the restart point. Craigo leading the restart now. Oh, okay. I was just about to say, are we not coming in? But yeah, the safety car is coming in this lap. 15 cars on the grid. Yeah, to be oh my god, my words just completely lashed me today. Sorry, my oh my god!
Oh, that is huge collision there.
No, I think AFL is decent.
That looked to be decent. Yeah, he just sort of drove through him. 5-second penalty for Craigo for apparent causing a collision. That is a really, really strange one and an unfortunate one for Craigo. Back racing again. AFL, not a scratch of damage on that Ferrari. Definitely a bit of desync creeping in. Mighty Atom getting the jump on Murphy on the restart. Marshall losing a little bit of time, but he's managed to creep back in within half a second. But what a mental race so far. A huge lap 1 collision before turn 1. On the restart, desync hitting hard there. Craigo with a 5-second penalty, of course. I would be very surprised if that's not removable. Of course, it all comes down to safety cars creeping in once again. And somehow, though, we've still got 15 cars still going. Mark Wilson then getting a move on Maverick at the back. He's got a lot of work to do to make back up through the field. But Wuban and AFL checking out by a second near the front. Crucial part to this race, though, Liam. We've seen it before. We'll see it again. ERS management around Imola.
Yes, and judging from the previous game, it was very hard to even save ERS. And now with this game, a lot harder to manage ERS. We'll see a lot of empty batteries coming into lap 10, I believe. We see Wuban already down 30% of the 100 full battery that he has. So yeah, definitely one to look out for. But now these front two absolutely checking out from the rest of the grid. AFL almost gapping Wuban by a second, and Wuban just using that little bit of battery to try and climb himself back into that 1 second gap. However, there's action still in it from third below. We see IR Marshall getting the move done on CRL Murphy.
I thought they were going to go 3 wide there. Marshall, Murphy and Wabstappen backing out of it. Murphy settling behind the Haas, and Marshall up into P4. He's looking to make a charge on the Mercedes of Mighty Atom next up for P3. But this battle really, really raging on all the way from P3 down to P9 of Super Wario. All cars separated by not even a second. Most of them separated by about a quarter of a second, as we saw the Mercedes going slightly wide there into turn 9, down into Aqua Minerale now. Craigo in the mix, trying to charge up through the field, but Super Wario gets the move done on Scooter Climb because he's had a spin coming out of Aqua Minerale, maybe losing it on the curbs or losing it under traction. Either way, a very, very tricky zone as Craigo runs wide out of the chicane, managing just to get back up close. And in fact, he's going to use that and turn a move into Murphy. Murphy down into P7, losing 3 positions in just under a lap. Not the best way for his race to continue, but of course it is a long way still to go. Atom pulled out a little bit of a gap on Marshall, but you can see that 33%, 32% battery will come back to haunt him later on in the front two. Blistering pace shown from them at the moment.
Absolutely, and the gap hasn't really changed. However, with the way the 3 cars are, oh my god, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be. Sorry, this is an absolute disaster class from me. From P3 down to P8, with how these guys are battling, it'll be pretty much impossible for these guys to even catch up to Mighty Atom. So does Mighty Atom have anything to worry about from the few cars below?
I suppose if he can just keep them at that arm's length, keep them outside that second. Just to saying that though, he looks to have a bad exit from Aqua Minerale and he's lost out to Marshall. He has recovered a little bit of ERS over the last lap, but only 10%. He's going to probably use that, of course. The car naturally using a little bit every time you accelerate out of a corner, and he goes for a bit of a daring lunge and has run wide. That's very F1 manager-esque when they pop up saying they've had a lockup of some sort. A bit of an audition move not coming off, and it's down to P6 for him.
Yep, just a bit of a misjudgment from his end, and this curse strikes again. As soon as we talk about a driver or merely look at them, they seem to always mess up. However, these 3 up ahead, Craigo, Wabstap, Iron Marshall, separated by just under 0.5 of a second. And these guys will be bound to battle it out. Wabstap having a great debut up into P4.
Yeah, cracking debut from Wabstap. I said he'd be a great addition to this tier. He's not disappointing at this stage on the medium tyres, of course, battling out with Marshall in front on the mediums and Craigo behind on the hards. Craigo doing a great job recovering from that little desync incident, of course. He still has 5 seconds loomer over his head. The front two, though, taking advantage of this battle as Atoms had a spin at Aqua Minerale. His race just basically disintegrating in the course of a lap. Just shows how tricky this track can be and unforgiving it really can. But this squabbling from P3 downwards doing wonders for Wuban and AFL. 4.8 seconds the gap from P2 to P3, 1.8 from AFL to Wuban, but of course that can change as ERS gets used and abused, and maybe just used a little bit too much. MKP though putting in the fastest lap, of course pitting at the end of lap 1. He's made it all the way back up into P6 as Verstappen goes for the move down the inside before turn 1 on IR. Marshall moves up into P3.
Yeah, and that was a clean, very simple move for Wabstap, and again, praising him for his debut. And I believe Mark Wilson and Super Wario, Super Wario going wide. Mark Wilson and Super Wario did trade positions, so Mark Wilson coming back from P15 all the way up to P7. Very impressive stuff indeed. And Scooter Clem retires after Gilles Villeneuve corner. And yeah, just a tight slapper, just not doing him any favours.
VSC deployed then. Delta across all cars, just sticking to a reduced pace. No safety car to bunch him back up, but it's a time, of course, they can switch to that low fuel mode if any of them have underfueled. They can save the tyres a little bit, try and regain some battery. So maybe a crucial stage for a few drivers just to get the car back in a better position for going on the attack or the defence in the next stage. Of course, the crucial part of that, of course, is going to be the green flag restart. You don't want to run into a negative delta because that is a drive-through. You don't want to have too large of a delta because you are ultimately losing time. it's a nice, fine balancing act, and some people are better at it than others, it must be said. Hopefully, though, we've seen a lot of good behaviour, and Topher is taking advantage of it. He is in the pits after 8 laps on those mediums, of course. With the cars travelling at a delta time, there is less time to be lost while in the pits. So it could be a strategy masterclass from the Aston Martin here. His pit stop time lost is going to be greatly reduced due to the others that might pit under green flag, but that'll only really kick in as there is no VSC or SC before the rest of them make the pit stop. We'll keep an eye on that lane.
Yeah,
Elsewhere,
and
everybody else sticking out.
yep, and we're back under green conditions, and Wuban getting a really good exit, gaining 2/10 coming out of Aqua Minerale. So it might play dividends. Don't think so. And yeah, AFL once again gapping that 3/10 now, coming out of Varianta Alta. Sorry, the names just slips me. MKP all over the back of Craigo now, and MKP, if he secures P5, isn't it?
P4 he needs. P5 and the fastest lap would lead him needing at least 1 point from the next 2 races. P5 on its own would need him 2 points in 2 races. P4 does the job for him, so he's going to be hunting to try and get that. Of course, Craigo in front has that penalty, so you'd think that's a little bit of a given unless something untoward happens. He's still got the battle out with Marshall, Webstappen and Co in front to try and make it happen. Super Wario is out on the exit of Tamburello, and I think
Tamburello claiming another car.
I think because
sorry, that was a really nice joke.
I think because we had a VSC last lap, it won't deploy anything for this lap other than the yellow flags. So race gonna resume though, but down after only 10 laps, a third of race distance. We've had just under a quarter of the drivers take an early bath from this Grand Prix. MKP still battling out with Craigo, almost pushing him through Alta and trying to get a good run now down through 16 into 17 for Rivazza, but I think he's going to be a little bit too bad. Will set him up for DRS. Craigo just hanging in to that 1 second. I think he just was within it at the DRS detection zone there, so he is going to have it himself, the Alpine, to defend. So maybe not as clinical, as straightforward as MKP would want. Mark Wilson, though, showing his pace, setting the fastest lap. He's chasing down this group 2.9 seconds back. And a lot of cars starting to flash with the ERS now, Liam.
Yeah, and there we go. The ERS management. ERS burns quickly here, especially down the main straight. And yeah, Craigo showing already signs of derating. However, it has brought him back up to the back of Ir Marshall in the Haas. Ir Marshall not really pushing his Haas all too hard at the moment. However, he is on the medium tyres, so the mediums could be already starting to wear. So there's also that to factor in.
Yeah, the mediums, we're going to be looking at those pitting within the next 5 or so laps. You would see you wouldn't really want to take the mediums much longer than half race distance, so probably anywhere from about now to lap 15, 16. I'm not quite sure on the exact. Mighty Atom losing out a couple of places, having a little bit of a tank slapper out of Aqua Minerale once again. It seems he's down to P11 from the heights of P3 earlier on in this race. We're just about, in fact, we are over it. We are over the 1/3 race distance here. 4 cars, DNF. Mark Wilson putting in another fastest lap. He's slowly reeling in this group in front, despite getting caught up in the first lap collisions. And what a little group this is. 3 cars separated by 6.5 tenths as it stands. IR Marshall, Craigo and MKP. 3 very competitive, very quick drivers within this grid, and 3 pretty steady drivers as well, not ones to get caught up in silly little collisions or a bit of rough and rag racing. All very clean elbow to elbow stuff from them recently.
Yeah, and that's the type of driver we want in these grids. Drivers are sensible, that will challenge fairly and have a good personality off track even. So that's all there is to it. But MKP, he's still stuck within this train. We'll get past Craigo, and with the help of that 5 seconds, it'll greatly help his chances get up into P4 by the end of this race.
Definitely. 20% ERS could be his downfall. You look at Marshall, he's on 80, well 70 now, but you see how fast it derates and it just depletes down that straight, using about 20%, 30% almost down the straight, using that to defend from the two behind. MKP and Craig would have an opportunity, of course, to sit in the DRS and save, but they're trying to get the move done sooner rather than later. And like you're saying though, the kind of driver, these are the kind of drivers you want, and Tier 4 for the most part has been pretty good standard wise this season. We have had it in the past, a few rogue drivers creeping in and causing absolute chaos, but I think this has maybe been one of the best and most civil grids almost, you could say, we've had in Tier 4 for a long time. So a shout out to every one of the drivers on here that's raced as a full-time, as a reserve. They've done an almighty job making Season 7 one of the best so far. And it's going to be a fitting championship to win if this man can do it. Moving up to P4. He's having a look at Craigo, not quite close enough though.
Very, very close, MKP. And just got to watch out for track limits. We didn't mention that track limits is strict around Imola. Imola is proving that it's a very tricky track to keep on, to keep your car on within those white lines. And there is a crash at the back. That is the Maverick, who spins coming out of Acqua Minerale, entering Variante Alta now. No damage for him, so that'll be all fine and dandy for him. Just a bit of confidence needed.
It is like you say, it's one of those tricks. You've got to be confident to push, to be quick, because you can't half attempt it. You need to really go for it around some of these corners. But there is the threat, of course. You can see those yellow sausage type curbs can really unsettle through the car and kill all speed, all momentum, and all confidence you have in the corner. And there's a lot of curbs here. Of course, the tricolour white, green and red curbs, you can see the little runoffs. That's not the track limits, however, it is the white lines on the edge of the asphalt tarmac. So it can be very, very unforgiving for a lot of drivers around here. Surprisingly, though, I think we've only got the one track limit penalty so far into this race, and that's the mighty Atom. The rest of the drivers not got the free strikes, of course. 1, 2, 3 track limit violations, and you get a free second penalty. The rest of them doing pretty well. But this battle with MKP and Craigo, maybe just about to heat up ever so slightly. Craigo just outside the DRS activation of 1 second on Marshall in front. So he's going to be sitting at vulnerable here into turn 1. Marshall is looking to make a move maybe on Webstappen. He's going to have DRS in front, but we'll keep an eye on this battle for P5 at the moment.
Oh, it could be a brilliant lunge. It's not a lunge, it's a peak. MKP just holding on to position just at the moment. Craigo well defended, making his Alpine as wide as possible, trying to defend off MKP. I think he knows that MKP could be champion, just playing just a little bit of games with MKP, who knows. However, MKP really desperate to get past Craigo, all over the back of Craigo. Will it be a move into Acqua Minerale? No, it won't. Just a little bit of lub tap coming into Acqua Minerale now, and MKP, he'll have to settle down once again before he goes for another lunge. However, MKP, will he go for a move going into Variante Alta? No, it won't be. Another love tap from himself.
Almost pushing the Alpine around the corner, saying, come on, I want to get this position going. I want to be in front here. He had a little bit of a scrum, though, out of Variante Alta, and it's dropped him back. I think he just about got the DRS there. Just on the cusp of the 1 second as we have a spin. I think that's Maverick having a little spin. No, MKP out of the DRS due to that little squirm. So a chance maybe lost on him. I've just noticed as well, Verstappen and Marshall are on the back of Wuban. They've slowly been reeling him in. And Wuban looking a little bit worse for wear when it comes to ERS at the moment. So the battle for P2 now heating up here as we're just approaching the pit window. We've seen a couple of cars in the form of Mighty Atom, Ghost Danger 1 and Murphy all make an early stop.
Oh, there's a spinner! Wuban's spun at Tosa! Oh my god! And that's P2. Gone in an instant, just like that. No damage for Wuban, thankfully. But we'll be in the way of Craigo, and for Craigo this is brilliant news as he's got DRS again if he stays behind Wuban. So very unlucky for Wuban.
I think that's another bit of commentators cross creeping in once again. We'll take a little break from the on-track action then just to address one of the comments. Dan, I'm not ignoring you. There's just been a lot of action. I do love you. Dan Collier, Mr. The Real DC, of course, want a little shout out, so I'll oblige so he doesn't sack us.
Oh. Terminal 2 getting hard. Getting sad now, sorry. Anyways, DRS for Craigo now, and for... Oh, did MKP pit? Yes, he did.
Pit stop.
Oh, and onto the mediums they go, hards they go. Hards can make it all the way to the end now. Oh,
MKP.
Oh yes, MKP already.
Cross.
He already did serve the hard tires, so yeah, well thought out.
Yeah, of course, with Verstappen, Marshall and Wuban all starting on those mediums as Mark Wilson puts in another fastest lap. Here he comes. Of course, he's made his stop 3 laps earlier and he's right in the mix. In fact, he's up into what is essentially provisional P2 at the moment. Marshall having a spin coming out of the pits by the looks of it. He's lost out to Wuban. MKP, though, one to watch here, doing that early pit stop off the hards. Medium for him to the end of this Grand Prix. He's going to have a little bit more pace on those mediums compared to the hards. But Mark Wilson, making the undercut work. He's 1.6 seconds ahead of Verstappen. But of course, as the race creeps on, those tyres are going to deteriorate a bit more. And he has got a penalty looming over his head. AFL then. When will he react? He's at risk of the undercut. He does reacted now. Into the pits for a set of hards, I would assume, splitting the race slightly more in the medium favour. Yeah,
and it'll be very interesting to see what happens here. Verstappen just over 7.5 tenths ahead of MKP, and he looks to be making most out of those hard tyres. He seems to be just about gapping MKP through Vivatsa. I say that he's lost about 2 tenths coming out of the exit, and for MKP this is spilling big money for him, and it could be the move that secures the championship.
Well, as it stands, he is provisional P4, I would say. Craig, of course, got the pit and the 5-second time penalty. He'll be coming out around about this gap, so I suppose it all depends on how clean of a few laps the next so are. AFL then came out of the pits 3.6 seconds ahead of Mark Wilson, although Mark Wilson on the mediums will have an opportunity while those hards are still cold and the mediums are still the better tyre to try and reel things in, as I think there's a little bit of action down the back.
A bit of a lub tap from MKP, gets past the Verstappen. It wasn't the cleanest move now, and I would expect MKP to cede that position. No, MKP soldiering on. So into P4 he goes, and into the as it stands right now, he will win drivers championship.
He would be, I believe, 2 or 3 points over what he would need to win it. So as things stand, of course, everything all provisional till final stand, as Maverick has retired on the exit of Tamburello. I wonder if it will be a safety car or virtual safety car here.
Tamburello once again claiming a car.
That looks to be a retirement on track. I believe that car is moving. I could be wrong. I'm not too sure. I think the dot did move, but I could be wrong. Maybe a one for the stewards, but down to 12 drivers, then everybody that finishes this race will pick up at least 1 championship points. As Verstappen goes a little bit deep into Tosa, turn 7, loses out about 4 or 5 tenths to MKP in front. The closest battle then ongoing between Wuban and IR Marshall, and then Topher and Curley down for P10 and 11. Update on the DC situation, Liam. He says you're banned.
What a shame, what a crying shame. Anyways, moving on very quickly. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be much rain, as some drivers has predicted. As
Yeah,
we
that's
can
a good
see,
point.
clear skies, and rays of sunshine from the Italian coast of Emilia Romagna here tonight.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the boys in the weather centre were saying. Murphy and Cole Paradox here, an insider on the grid, apparently telling us that it was, at first it was rain for the full race, then it was rain from about lap 5. We're in lap 20, and if anything, it's gotten brighter. So I think they've been absolutely duped around here. So maybe a few drivers as well. I suppose the added benefit is if you go to a slightly more mixed or wetter condition setup, you're less likely to spin. So maybe it's working in a few drivers' favour. They've got that extra bit of downforce, a little bit more confidence around some of the corners. However, it's also going to lose them a lot of time. Craigo still going 19 laps. This will be lap 20 on the hards, 21.1 seconds out front. Of course, he is going to drop down. He is losing time hand over fist with every lap. But I wonder, is he stretching the hards to try and get on the softs?
Exactly the point I was going to make. It is possible, definitely is possible. And if I were Craigo, I would try and stick it out another few laps to try and stick on the soft compound of tires. Yeah, not much action going on at the moment. Scott here tonight. It's a bit of an endurance race for some of us here. That are in the cockpit, that are on the track trying to finish this race. I mean, this track is infamous for its deadly corners.
Our only real battles then, the battle for P9 and the battle for P2. Yellow flags, I think that's Ghost Angel 1. Another thing I just got to point out, Craigo, he's maybe playing it for the safety car. Of course, he's got 5-second penalty, but he's got a 21.7 second gap. More than enough time under safety car, I would say, to do a pit stop. Once you add the 5 seconds in, it might get a little bit tighter. But of course, the guys behind him are going to go in at a reduced pace, so it could be close with that. That's maybe the game he's waiting for. Either go for the softs at the end and try and blitz up through the grid as quick as he can, or pray to the safety car gods, or probably should be praying to us to give somebody a little bit of commentator's curse. We're going to stick on board then with this battle for P2 between AFL and the Ferrari and Mark Wilson in the McLaren. AFL ample on the ERS compared to Mark Wilson, but Mark Wilson going to have slipstream and DRS as he exits the final part of Ravazza through Bassa and on to the start of lap 22. Side by side then with the Ferrari and the DRS making that child's play, making the move done into turn 1. Of course, Mark with a 3-second time penalty.
No
he
collision,
has still
of
a bit
course.
to what to do. It's,
no collision.
No collision, yes.
and if we know anything, George Russell, watch out for him in that corner.
Of course, no Alfa Romeos or it wasn't Alfa Romeo at the time, it was a Williams Mercedes. We'll watch out for that battle. Murphy, Atom and Curley, to be fair, side by side in the same positions. A little update on penalties then. Murphy and Craigo both with 5-second penalties. Mark Wilson with a 3-second penalty, and Mighty Atom with 3-second penalties, totaling to 9. We just caught, though, Mark Wilson making a little mistake as MKP makes a mistake and picks up a 3-second time penalty. EFL been invited back on, with Mark Wilson losing it on the exit of turn 13, the final part of Aqua Minerale. MKP then getting that 3 seconds, a little bit of relief for Mark Wilson because he was closing in on that 3-second gap to these two in front. So now if he wants that position, he's going to have to make it on track. Still on course, of course, as things stand for potentially the title. but it's a little bit harder for him now. Wabstappen within that 3-second range as AFL goes for a move around the outside, thinks about it, can't quite make it work.
Nope, he cannot at the moment. And I think AFL will be very hard for him on the newer hards, yes, but those mediums seem to be in its prime, in its element at the moment on Mark Wilson's chassis.
9 laps to go then, 10 if you include this one. So they are going to be about the 19 lap mark, 18, 19 lap mark for Mark Wilson. So it's going to start to degrade as the laps go on. It may even force his hand with a late pit stop. However, if he can hold the tyres in there, we've seen, I believe it was AFL, take the mediums about 17 laps as Craigo decides 22 laps, 23 laps indeed, is the limit for his hards. Interested to see what goes in that Alpine. But that could really, really put a spanner on Mark Wilson's.
I see Redwall tyres.
It's the softs. This is going to be tasty.
This could be make or break for him. These softs on this new game, they don't go long, but man are they fast. And on a driver like Craigo, definitely one to look out for. That 5 seconds being served, and he comes out the pits now just ahead of Iron Marshall. And if it weren't for that 5 seconds, he'd be 6/10 within Wapstappen.
Be right on the rear of that Mercedes. Of course, he served it under green flag racing, and if there's no safety car to bunch the field up, that's definitely one that could be removed from his final race time. So again, provisional results might go against him, but one to watch out in the final results, depending how the last race goes. But like you say, those softs, they're not going to take long to get up to temperature. They're not going to take long to grip in, and when you put them on a driver such as Craigo, who's won several races this season, he's got pace, he's got the experience. They could be some lightning quick laps coming in here. Particularly, you've got a lot of heavy traction zones here, out of the chicanes through Acqua Minerale. The softs are just going to bite in so much better, and they're biting in that much that I think he's gained about 8/10 on the car in front already.
And Craigo now absolutely steaming ahead. MKP almost pulling the gap to Webstappen. 6/10 for him to pull as it stands at the moment. Actually, no. He's secure at the moment, but with Craigo on the softs, anything could play out. And these softs, it'll only need this lap to be in its absolute prime, in its absolute best now, Scott.
Well, you look, he came out of the pits 5.6 seconds the gap. It's down to 3.8, 3.9 already. Yes, the gains are going to get slightly less and less as the laps tear on, but he's took out nearly 2 seconds in a lap on that car in front. If he can keep a similar pace for even another couple of laps, he's going to be right on the rear of Webstappen, which will put him within range of MKP. And Mark Wilson, a secondary 3-second time penalty. That's big for MKP's chances at the title, of course. He's 3 seconds himself, so as long as he's within 3 seconds of Mark Wilson, current gap 2.1, 2.2 between those pair will give him a chance at potentially P2 as things stand. But 7 laps to go once they cross the line here, and there's still so many moving parts. Craigo on the softs, penalties rolling in, and of course we've seen a few penalties so far. I wouldn't be surprised if that is the last one. I would be surprised if that's the last penalty. Craigo then showing the pace at an 18.7, 8 for him. Bonus point for the man in the Alpine as things stand.
Yeah, as it currently stands at the moment, anything could still happen. And there we are. I think there's a 5-second gap between MKP and Craigo as it stands, and MKP absolutely gapping Webstappen now. I think you've already pointed this out.
Just about. He has gained the 3-second time advantage on him, and so he's not going to lose a position as things stand to Webstappen, but he will gain one off Mark Wilson. He is trying to gain one on track, of course. Penalties still apply, would lose it out at the end on AFL for what would be essentially provisional race lead with the penalties. Well, not really, because MKP is going to lose it with his 3-second time penalties, but a few mistakes from AFL, a 3-second could creep in from him. Craigo is almost within DRS range. In fact, he's pushing just about getting in it. He might be here down the run into turn 1. So, I mean, look how much time he gains through Rivatsa just with better exits. He has got DRS. Further up, MKP, is he having a move on AFL? Yes, round about the outside. He's going to get the move done long before turn 1. We'll jump on board with Craigo. Then he's going down the inside.
Hold on. MKP getting a really bad exit coming out of Tamburello and into Villeneuve now. They're going to go side by side. AFL hangs on to the position. I'm sorry for cutting you off there, Scott. That was very rude of me. However, it looks to be a bit shady from that angle.
Two of them doing. I'm surprised they managed to keep it out of each other's front wings there with through Villeneuve. It looked as if there was about to be contact. And of course, this battle and MKP running a little bit wide there. Craigo is now only 1.4 seconds off the rear of MKP. And realistically, Mark Wilson, 6 seconds of penalties and those older tyres, he's going to struggle to bring himself into contention for this race win as things stand. It could be a shootout between Craigo and AFL for the win. Verstappen, if he can try and leech on to the back and pull himself along, could be on for a podium as well. And of course, 5 laps to go. Penalties could still come flooding in. Topher makes a move on Atom down at the back for P10. That race still going on. Topher, we've seen him go for the early undercut. He's an 18-lap old hards. He'll just about be able to make it to the end on them. Nice little battle raging between those pair. But the main eyes on MKP is AFL. I think go side by side once again through
this
turns.
This is really
1,
not
2,
helping
3.
MKP. Sorry. This is really not helping MKP out. As it stands, he's going to be in P5 as things stand at the moment if he doesn't get past AFL as quick as possible. AFL putting up a masterclass defense, I have to say.
And I'm saying as well, I've ruled out Mark Wilson for a potential win here. The gap's 5.1 seconds now. He's got 6 seconds of penalties. MKP runs wide through turn 9 there. So with these 3 squabbling, it could actually play into a Mark Wilson win here with the 6 second of penalties. It's all about if he can keep building that gap slowly but surely. The biggest threat is probably Craigo with those fresh softs. If he can clear the 2 in front, he's going to be able to charge down on that McLaren. Going to be a three-way battle here down into turn 1 potentially with the DRS all on each other. MKP probably going to make the move on AFL. Craigo could follow suit. Will ride on board with the Alpine, using a little bit of ERS out of the exit. The DRS wide open on him. He's going to have double slipstream, DRS and ERS. He goes to the right. They're going to be free wide. Craigo onto the grass, makes the move around about the outside of the Ferrari, tries to go round the outside of the AlphaTauri, but the space just not there. And I'm amazed all 3 cars are going. That is a class bit of racing from those 3.
Very good racing indeed. You don't see them going 3 wide every day now. And yeah, that was a brilliant move. However, Craigo, still with the fresh softs, bear in mind. Still yet to make up that position on MKP. However, it's a matter of time until those softs decide to give up on Craigo.
Only a few laps to go. 3 laps after this one, but like we've seen, the softs at pretty much every track this game, they just do not last. We had a 3-wide, 3-way battle with all 3 dry compound tyres in the mix there. The mediums, softs and hards respectively. All of them though within DRS, with Verstappen slowly closing in that gap as well with a little bit of squabbling. So maybe a chance for him. Could we see history repeat ourselves once again? Of course, AFL at the back on the hardest compound of tyres might have a harder time getting a good exit down at the start-finish straight. However, DRS and double slipstream might help him just a little bit. Craigo, though, going to be eyeing up a potential move on MKP. Maybe not, however. He's slightly too far back, and AFL, in fact, getting a little bit detached now.
Yeah, AFL, yeah, his hearts aren't putting up too much of a good fight either way. Craigo, it's only a matter of time, like I said last lap and just earlier. It's only a matter of time until his softs start to wear out. But by the looks of things, it looks pretty dandy at the moment. It looks like it's around about maybe 40-50% now.
Yeah, he's going to be getting to that fine line. They are going to just hit a cliff. He's not going to want to wear them out too much because as things stands, he is on for the provisional win. Of course, Mark Wilson 6 seconds of penalties. The gap between those two just about 5.8, so he doesn't want to lose too much time battling or too much wear and life in the tyres. Battling as he runs wide on the exit of Variante Alta and loses a little bit of time to MKP in front. However, MKP making a little bit up on Mark Wilson, so the gap's still going to hold down. MKP, like you say, potentially only on for P5, going to miss out on securing the title by a couple of points as things stand. Then Craigo with the DRS, with the slipstream, both of the red lights on the rear of those cars flashing as we have yellow flags in Sector 1, but it's too late for the safety car. Craigo up into P2 then, and with 6-second penalties for Mark Wilson in front. This might be the best thing that's happened for MKP. He's got a lap and a half now to try and maybe hook in behind that Alpine on the red tyres and just let him pull him along a little bit and try and gap the two behind that are threatening to take away position with penalties.
Yeah, and it'll be very close by the end of it. However, that DRS will pay dividends, and a lot of it for MKP. And as it stands at the moment, yeah, seems to be gapping him, AFL, through the third sector, by the looks of things. I say that now, AFL's gained a lot of time through Aqua Minerale coming into Variante Alta. AFL picking up a 3-second time penalty!
And that all but secures P4 provisionally for MKP unless there is a big mistake inbound. Verstappen on for a potential podium on his debut here if he can keep things nice and tidy. We did say penalties could creep in as we do start the final lap. Mark Wilson out front on 18 lap old medium tyres is going to start the final lap and take us round for one last run of this Imola circuit. With Verstappen getting the move done on AFL before the penalties applied. He's got 3 seconds of penalties for MKP in front. 2.5 seconds is the gap at the moment. So as long as he doesn't lose out half a second on this final lap to MKP, it will be P3. Yellow flags in the first sector. That's Ghost Angel 1 going slowly. A bit of a strange bit. He's out of the pits, that's why. Making a late pit stop there on to the mediums. I thought he'd maybe run out of fuel, but not quite that. Mark Wilson, though, going to cross the line, it looks, in P1, but going to lose out with these penalties, and it's going to be how much is he going to lose out by?
Yeah, and I don't think he'll lose out a lot now, but I can't believe I'm saying this. Mark Wilson is going to win on track.
I know, he's normally always up there, and then either a rogue incident or a bad spin sort of kills his chances, but he does cross the line in P1. It is going to be probably P2 then, with Craigo not picking up any penalties. He takes the win. Mark Wilson then finishes P2, with Verstappen on his debut takes P3. MKP does get P4, is provisionally champion. He's got 3.4 seconds to AFL behind if there is any post-race stewarding that might creep in, although I don't think there was much in the way of incidents in this race, so we'll wait and see it later in the week. AFL then, like we say, P5, Marshall P6, Wuban P7, Murphy comes home in P8, 5-second unserved time penalty. I think that was speeding into the pits. Curley going to be the next to come home in P9, with Topher looking to be P10, Mighty Atom P11, and Ghost Angel 1 finishing a lap down, but in P12 and picking up a single championship point. Pretty good race overall though, Liam.
Yeah, it got dull in the mid part, but it really spiced up at the very end, and I'm glad it did. And that was a very good race from everyone who finished the race, of course.
Definitely. 12 of the 17 making it to the end. Of course, two of those, the two Alfa Romeos, losing out on the rundown to Tamburello on lap 1. A few others, such as Mark Wilson, such as MKB, getting mixed up in that. The safety car coming out, allowing them to regroup the field to get a pit stop in and try and push on from there. and coming home in P2 and P4 for those. But it is the man once again in the Alpine. Came down from Tier 3. He is very much, like they say, the Norwich of Tier 3 and Tier 4. Not quite good for the Prem, not quite, but slightly too good for the Championship. He's just somewhere in between these two tiers. And I think we'll need to come up with a Tier 2, 3.5 next season just for him.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Tier 5. That's some wording you put there. And that was good. That was good.
Craigo then, I think is that his fourth or his fifth victory this season?
I don't know, it's a lot of victories though.
They've been tallying up recently. Started P2 into P1. Your prediction, bang on the money as well. He even managed to get fastest lap thrown in there to add onto it.
Once again, I'm proving that I am the best at predicting things. Hashtag believe in Liam box.
Oh, don't start the lead box, please. So yeah, Craigo, P2 to P1 takes the provisional win here in Imola. Mark Wilson, P4 to P2, finally gets a podium for the McLaren with Verstappen on his debut. P14 to P3, what a drive, definite contender for driver of the day. MKP though, P3 to P4, making the two-stop work despite that early incident. And is your provisional Tier 4 champion. AFL, Marshall, Wiban, Murphy, Curley, Topher, Mighty Atom, Ghost, Angel won the rest of your finishers and your point scorers indeed, because there is only 12 of them. 2 rounds to go then, Liam. Hungary and Bahrain sprint. Potentially the Drivers' Championship rounded up, but I think...
I want to see more driving. I want to see more action from these few. And
it might almost open it up. Of course, the battle for P2 will still rage on between Craigo, Ferguson and AFL. Ferguson not getting anything. He was 54 points adrift from MKP. Craigo 73 and AFL 101 adrift. They'll be a little bit closer together after tonight. So that battle could rage on, and with the championship potentially out of reach for anybody else, we could see maybe a little bit more elbows out. Just race for the fun of it, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, I'd like to see that from these drivers. I mean, these drivers, they've put on a really good show all throughout the season. And why stop there?
Absolutely. Make every race count. Hungary next week, like we said, for round 14. And then we finish up on the 21st of November here in Tier 4. For Bahrain in Sakir for a sprint race, the third sprint race and final sprint race of the season. How are you feeling for interviews tonight, Liam? Are you up for it? Is your voice doing it? Because mine's is on the edge.
Whatever you decide, mate. I am literally indifferent.
We'll see if any of our drivers want to come in for a little chat, I suppose. Let's see. I know Craigo doesn't. I don't think he's came in much in the past. With Verstappen, of course, a new driver, and Mark Wilson. I'd imagine Mark would be up for a chat. We'll see if any of them fancy a quick wee chat, and sort of just get a nice little driver's perspective. We haven't had it too much this season, just between one or two other things. Mostly just us doing solo com. It has been a little bit of a merry-go-round. For the comms this season, but hopefully the next 2 races it'll be the I don't know what to describe it as. Dynamic duo. I was going to say Dumb and Dumber, but
which one's the dumber one?
Well, I'll leave that up for the debate with maybe some of the viewers and some of the people in the server. The Celtic connection could be one nice way for the streamers. Mark Wilson seems to be up for a chat. I'll add him to the party. I don't want to start a party. I want to add him to the party. Where is he?
I will say that these new cars as well, definitely keeping my eyes on the screen. A bit more attention being paid on the screen, if I'm being honest with you. These new cars do look fine indeed.
Of course, the recent update for the liveries and such. it has made the cars look a lot nicer. I'm a big fan, it must be said, of the Red Bull now. It just looks a lot sleeker, just a lot more appealing, especially last week under the dark and the lights of Abu Dhabi. I think we're only going to get Mark in for a chat, but it'll be nice to get a chat from one of our drivers, particularly on the podium, since we haven't done it too much this season, and particularly with him, considering some of the races he's had, I think it's about time he deserves a little chat.
Yeah, definitely. He does deserve it. I mean, you seen his look. Absolutely stunk in a quali session, but just seems to fall away during a race.
I'm thinking back to a few races. Canada was a big one. We had that battle between him and Ferguson all the way back in round 6. I believe Miami and Jeddah were pretty similar. Even France. Always the bridesmaids, never the bride type thing. Always there and thereabouts, and then just not even mistakes creeping in, because we've seen plenty of drivers make mistakes. It's just, for anything, a lack of luck. The mistake comes in and there's no safety car, or there's no it just happens at the worst time, sort of thing. So I'm glad for him to finally got a podium. With Verstappen unfortunately not going to join us due to having a screaming baby, so I think that's a fair response for him. We'll just see Mark and a little bother.
Let's give it another 2 minutes, I'd say.
Yeah, we'll give him a couple of minutes. I'm just making sure I did add him to the party, didn't I?
You did. Notification came up.
I'm not being silly.
However, that's your strongest trait, though, being silly.
It's just my usual repertoire. Hungary next week then. That'll be a nice little challenge for the drivers. A very technical track. A very tricky track. Overtaking not really at a premium there. Qualifying going to be crucial. And of course, it's not always the driest a country is it Hungary when it comes to the weather. So I'm expecting a spectacle there, Liam. I don't know what your opinion on the track is.
I mean, I have mixed feelings about it. If you asked me back in... Oh, he started a new party. So, we can either jump there or we can just end it here.
If I've not had any, I think PSN's having a nightmare tonight. If you can get in the party, feel free to add me. I'll waffle until you can get me in, and we can go from there.
PS5 connections. Let's see what happens. Mark Wilson.
Oh, it says he doesn't have one, won't waste more time. Mark and Daniel, if you're listening, PSN seems to be having a nightmare. We did add you to the party, but for some reason it's not getting in. I'm thinking the next 2 rounds, Liam, if me and you here, we just maybe add like... Oh, there we go! There we go! I was just about to sign off and say we'll add like maybe 3 or 4 drivers the next few rounds and just see who wants to come in for a chat at the end. But we've finally got it. And about time we've had this man in for an interview. He's had some stonking qualifying, like we said, some really unfortunate races. Canada, the one that sticks in the mind with me, that battle with Ferguson. But Mark, you're finally on the podium. You've got to be happy with that tonight, mate.
I'm gutted though that I didn't win.
The penalties creeping in 6 seconds.
Yeah, 6 seconds. I was only 7 tenths off the win, but yeah, I mean, I was gutted on the first as we started. I don't know what happened to Leon, I think it was, who spun out in front of me. I hit him and lost my wing, and I thought that was it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Leon, of course, it seemed to get tangled up with Ferguson. Was it a contact or was it just a spin from what you've seen?
Well, I mean, Ferguson started behind me, so it looked like he just spun his rears up and lost it. But I don't actually know. I need to look back at it, but it looks like he spun his rears up and then just come across.
Spun it up, lost it, collided his teammate, and I think yourself and MKP getting in that. I've got to say as well, a big hand to you with the tyre management. I think it was about 19-20 laps in the mediums towards the end. To still be able to pull out almost 6 seconds with tyres at that condition, that's crazy pace, I must admit.
It was hard though. I was just thinking to myself though, if I didn't obviously get hit at the start, oh my god. I could have been easily 20 seconds ahead, but
I think to be fair, given your luck this season, you've
Yeah,
done
I'd have
you've
probably
done
binned it.
well over the course of the season, and I can imagine by about halfway through lap one, it was not another week of this, but no, a brilliant recovery drive from you. Next week, Hungary. Are you feeling you can do something similar again? Hopefully the luck stays, but I mean, you've showed the pace. How's your sort of feelings for the track?
I don't think that I'll be coming through the field as much as I did tonight, because it's such a difficult track to overtake. But hopefully I can get a good quali and just go from there.
Hopefully. Well, you've seen you with good quality pace, so I don't doubt that. I'm going to ask you this as well. What happened to the rain? Because we got told there was going to be rain in the race.
Well, so did we. I mean, even Murphy says I've got a wet setup on. I mean, when I clicked on it, it said sun for the race, but then when it toggled through the weather, it was raining. So yeah, we was all preparing for inters, and then it come up, and it was like medium hard, like the strategy. It was like, what is going on here? But it looked like, I don't know if it looked like on your screen when we started, it looked like it might rain. But
yeah,
the clouds didn't look great.
Was very overcast. We were thinking, is it maybe 5 to 10 laps going to start raining down, but it just never seemed to come.
It just cleared up, yes, man.
Just Codemasters and EA being Codemasters and EA.
Murphy's not happy, let's put it that way.
I can imagine so. I'm sure we'll hear a little bit of that in the admin chat later on. Liam, hand it over to you, mate. Anything you want to add?
No, I mean, just very good race, well run. Just very unlucky with the penalties. However, your true pace showing here today, and I'm proud of you for getting that podium and being on track.
Thank you.
I think as well moves you up into the top 6, 2 rounds to go. Maybe, obviously, title challenge out with MKP provisionally securing it, but a chance at maybe a top 5, top 3 potentially into the last 3 races. We'll see once the standings are out. Thank you for joining us, Mark, and once again, congratulations on P2 tonight.
No worries. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Well then, Liam, I think before we rattle on for too much longer, we just round things up.
Yep, I think that's it.
Lovely stuff. Thanks for joining me once again, mate. Hopefully we'll be back, the two of us, for the last couple of rounds. Hungary and Bahrain. Make sure though to check back on the channel on Thursday night. Tier 2 kicking off at 7:30 with the man, the myth, the hedgehog, for what will ultimately be an exciting race with an almighty championship battle raging on there. If you want to see another good race though with slightly less championships up for grabs, Tier 1 is underway. Wouter, I believe, has secured the championship, although I could be wrong. It's not maybe.
Yes.
He has. I was thinking to say if he hasn't already, it's not a case of if, it's more a case of when. But there'll be still some great action. That kicks off at 8:30 on Thursday night, and then of course join us back on Monday night 7:30. You could see, I believe it was Jamie in the box tonight, so he might be back next Monday. It might be Evans, Joshua, or it might even be myself or Liam, or a mix of other guests for Tier 3, and then of course 8:15 next week will be Tier 4. I've been your host and commentator, CRL Freefall, along the man, the myth, the absolute legend, that is Tenteen Liam. Sorry mate, I had to just get that in there. Thank you all for joining us, and have a very, very good rest of your night.